In all my time playing StarCraft 2, through multiple playthroughs of the story, to almost zero time in the PvP competitive mode due to people taking the game a little bit too seriously. Finally, there's co-op, with upgrades like the campaign and the multiplayer feature of PvP, except you're working together, not against each other. In my entire time of playing co-op and maxing out all, emphasis on all heroes, which made me happy, and my wallet, not so much. Don't get me wrong, the price that they're asking for is actually reasonable for the amount of time you can actually get out of these commanders, but still, when you buy them all, they add up real quick. However, out of every commander in the game, none of them come close to the sheer confusion that is this commander's video, Nova. To give you all some background knowledge, Nova works as a ghost, an elite team of super soldiers / assassins employed by the Dominion that shows up not only in her own standalone campaign, but in the Terran campaign as well. She flips between sides of the Dominion and the Defenders of Man more than Italy switches sides in literally every war. However, it could be due to the brainwashing, you never know. So not only is her backstory confusing, but her kit is just even worse. Her mechanics is that she has hero units, except they're not hero units, except she has an army, but you don't have the time or resources for them. This makes her kit not only complicated for new players, but perplexing for even the most seasoned StarCraft 2 players, but I digress. With all that out of the way, we can finally get to the topic of the video, co-op. The mechanics of Nova's kit is best described as expensive units called down. This means that she has access to a few units you've seen and a few units you haven't. But what makes her units so special is that they're expensive. Like, very much expensive. Yet they are a much more powered up version of the regular units that other commanders have access to. So heed my warning and set up your economy as early as human possible, with maxed out SCVs harvesting minerals, and eventually at level 7, place down your automatic refineries so you save yourself a bit of population space. Taking to the battlefield herself, after a very long cooldown, Nova dominates the battlefield rather quietly or guns blazing loud.
Encountering air combat. Acknowledged.
Upgrade completed.
En route. On the move. The ships trying to launch without you. They can't get off the ground before the infested arrive.
Stealth mode includes a permanent cloaking, which is Nova's main defense method, and a sniper rifle that grants the ability Snipe, dealing 200 damage to any biological target at very long range, best used on tankier enemies like hybrids, ultralisk, and siege tanks in quick succession. Since Snipe doesn't only work on structures, you have the Sabotage drone, which takes all of Nova's energy to deploy and deals massive amounts of damage after it goes off. Great for structures as it deals double the damage against them, and best used against timing enemy attacks or defensive emplacements that the enemy has already set up. The finalized stealth mode is the Tactical Nuke Strike, which has a 600-second cool-up time at the beginning of the game and 450 seconds after the first use, dealing massive amounts of damage in a very large area a few seconds after the nuke is called. Absolutely amazing at any type of enemy that stands in your way. Defenses, attack, hybrid, weak unit, it all works. And then there's Assault mode for dealing with much larger amounts of enemies, starting out with a Penetrating Blast. Since Nova loses her cloak, she gains a powerful shotgun to use the ability. Penetrating Blast pierces through enemies in an affected area, which is great as it doesn't have a cooldown and only has an energy cost. With losing her main defense method of cloaking, Nova gains a bit of Protoss technology, surprisingly, with the ability Blink, a short-range teleport capable of saving her from near-death situations while gaining a 200 HP shield for 8 seconds. You can hold up to 3 charges if you want to use them all in quick succession to maintain that shield, or to use them sparingly for a quick escape. Placing the nuke is the Holographic Decoy. Very straightforward. This ability has the same cooldown as the nuke in all of its rules, but instead duplicates Nova for 60 seconds as she not only deals damage with her weapon, but has access to abilities as well. Keep in mind that each mode and their respective abilities can be switched on the fly and has a short cooldown and a little energy cost. However, there are some upgrades that are universal, like being able to detect cloaked and buried enemies, increased energy regeneration, and a few abilities that increase each one, like Snipe refunds half of its ability energy if it kills, and Penetrating Shot has 2 more range, useful in every scenario. At the top bar are abilities much like her troops, expensive with an insufferable cooldown. Defensive drones can be stored up to 5 and cost 100 minerals, relatively cheap. Provides a heavy shielding to allied units within its radius, which should be used for more pushing towards your army to prevent death from happening, which is going to happen quite a bit, so these defensive drones are key for advancing. Griffin airstrikes are honestly overkill to say the least, dealing massive amounts of damage from explosive barrels attached to parachutes. Don't let the looks fool you, they are capable of serious damage, as 500 damage across the entire area, and it covers quite a large area. This ability is excellent for not only dealing with enemy attack waves, but also completely destroying objectives and destroying enemy bases. But 1,000 minerals to use the ability very much limits your ability to spam the ability and only use it because that is a very expensive power. Tactical airlift transports you instantly, both you and your allied troops, for a minimal cost of 200 minerals, anywhere where you have vision, making it useful for traveling long distances in a short time, which is normally Nova's Achilles heel. And to finalize the top bar is instant regeneration, an ability only possible to use when Nova is, well, dead. Since Nova is a crucial part of our army, not only in the damage section, but also in utility through detection, each second of the respawn time is worth 5 minerals. So the more the cooldown, the more it's gonna cost you, but sometimes it's better to use up those minerals to revive Nova instantly to change the outcome of a battle. Clear transition in the video, not only because I don't know how to bridge paying your way out of death to combat units, but whatever. At the end of the day, my final tip for overall playing Nova and dealing with her mechanics is that your success in-game is entirely based on your economy, as you need a constant amount of minerals not only for your abilities, as you know, but soon you will learn that units will increase that need of resource income. Starting out at the barracks is Elite Marines. Just to give you an idea how expensive these units are, a regular Marine costs 50 minerals per soldier. Nova's Elite Marines creates a squad of 4 Marines at the cost of 600 minerals. That's like 150 minerals a Marine. But with this cost, not only does your wallet weep, but you also have increased stats across all fields, which makes them the backbone of Nova's army. Elite Marines are capable of high damage with upgrades of increased range and vision, while upgrades that are needed for survivability like super stim packs that not only heal the Marine compared to the other regular stim packs, but increase movement speed and attack speed by 50% for 15 seconds, making them an absolute must in your army. Marauder Commandos are used for heavy damage against ground targets, mainly armored and mechanical threats. An amazing troop when combined with Marines to tear apart armor, but getting a railgun upgrade that deals heaps of damage every 30 seconds, while suppression shells make their target's movement speed reduced, furthering the distance from themselves and the target. However, they do cost quite a bit, keep that in mind. And to top off all of the basic infantry is the Ghosts, similar to Nova, and they are a ridiculous price for very high bursts of damage and some degree of utility. The Snipe ability, like Nova, still says the same, as it's not able to attack structures, but it's able to attack armored targets and biological targets. This ability, however, compared to Nova, does not have an energy cost, but just has a much longer cooldown. Further upgraded to fire 3 shots during Snipe instead of 1, and an EMP capable of sending an enemy's shields to absolute 0, also capable of depleting their energy reserves to 0 to cancel the ability casting of their targets, which can save you in an entire fight. Talking about you hybrids. Just remember at the end of the day that every single troop's death is impacting, so be careful in every fight they're in. In this fight, for example, 2 Marines are lost, which doesn't sound like a big problem at first, all until you realize the mistake I made not only cost me precious time to even get the troops onto the battlefield, but 300 minerals as well. So to avoid taking losses beyond repair, you need troops that not only bring heavy firepower to the fight, but with considerable health. Hellbat Rangers leap into the fight with upgraded jump jets, which are capable on impact to gain armor and stun the area. Despite having a flamethrower and a blue fire flamethrower with increased damage, it actually doesn't do a lot of damage and more acts the role of a defensive shield to protect your more vulnerable and core units like Marines, Marauders, and Goliaths. Especially amazing for pushing forward, and combined with defensive drones makes for one deadly combo. They can still transform back into Hellions, the motorbike version, but it is not recommended because they lose all of that defense in the process, which takes away from their ability to push forward. At medium and eventually long range is Strike Goliaths, being a very multi-purpose unit with the specialty of anti-air. I'm talking about lockdown missiles, which are capable of stunning air units that are not heroes and bosses, dealing not a lot of damage surprisingly on the ground. However, this is made up for an increased range of 1 to ground units and 3 against air, with upgrades that is definitely worth the price that they are asking. They're gonna mainly be sitting in the back and be dealing damage there. Just make sure that the enemies don't get close to them because they can be easily overwhelmed.
Keep the little guys out of trouble.
Raining excessive damage from the back is the heavy siege tank, not packing as much punch as Swan's siege tank, but capable of other bonuses and abilities. Like spider mines are able to be deployed off the tank and can be placed on the move or to reinforce their position, as they do heavy damage to any enemy that gets in close proximity. But what sets this heavy siege tank apart from all of them is increased range to the ridiculous level. The longer the tank is in siege mode, the more range it gets, to a maximum of 5. This effect cannot be lost if the tank remains in siege mode and is moved around with the tactical airlift. But good luck affording that all the time. I'd recommend using it for more defensive purposes. Even though the tanks can be moved around and used in an offense more than defense, I would still recommend to keep them to the defense and defending the base or objectives. Finishing off all the units at the starport, where most of these troops are used in more situations, but one of them is used in any army composition. Starting with the Raid Liberator, which is normally a strong anti-air, but when deployed becomes a devastating force with long range and high damage. When transformed, it cannot attack the other. It will spend most of its time defending moving targets, as the stationary targets are better defended by heavy siege tanks. While the Liberators are capable of higher damage than the siege tanks have longer range and have splash damage. However, upgrades as being able to damage structures with their deployed form and the ability to transform 4 times as quickly makes them really good for defense on the go. And then there's Covert Banshees, an excellent tool for devastating ground targets in attack waves and bases. Even though they can't hit other air targets, they double down on their strength against ground targets with a rocket barrage that deals damage in a relatively big area. And for defense, obviously because they don't have a lot of health, they have advanced cloaking field, which allows the Banshee to remain permanently cloaked. Definitely needed if you want to keep them alive. And now not only for the final unit in Nova's kit, but a unit incredibly important for any army no matter the composition. Raven Type 2. Since Ravens are normally used for detection, you might be wondering, well, why do you use it when Nova has detection? You can get it relatively early. This is because with an emphasis of keeping your troops alive due to cost and time and resources, the Raven Type 2 is capable of deploying a biomechanical repair drone, necessary for healing both biological and armored troops to prevent the troop from low health or death. Keep in mind that it can have 3 charges of each of their abilities, and that all troops being healed is cloaked for that added protection. Best have a few of these in your army to keep them alive and to make sure that they're ready for the next fight that they will inevitably get into. And if everything goes to plan and you don't lose a ton of troops throughout the entire game, you can bag yourself enough XP to not only get past level 15, but to bag yourself some mastery points. There's like 90 levels, it's quite excessive. Power set 1 is completely up to you how you like to bring down the heat. Personally, I choose the opposite of what most people choose because I like an ability that does high damage and the only limiter is a cooldown versus at maximum 700 minerals. But again, to each their own. Power set 2 once again is up to you whether you want to have better units and have higher attack speed for them, or if you want to increase by 50% Nova's penetrating blast and snipe, one for a better army and one for a better hero. Take your pick on what you want to prioritize on. Power set 3, I would go for life regeneration rate all the way. Nova's energy regeneration rate allows her to fire off more abilities like snipe and penetrating blast. I just think that the 6% life regeneration for all combat units goes a lot further, as just her entire army and her entire method of pushing is not just Nova, it's Nova and her army. I just feel they'll get more value. And to truly end off the video, we have the Prestige perks, a system that was introduced recently and a system that requires a lot of dedication for. Soldier of Fortune allows one of the following structures to being the barracks, the factory, and the starport to not only have no tech requirements to build it, but the first production structure you make will call down units 100% faster while making the other two 100% slower. This is used for more if you want to specialize in just one factory or one type of unit. Tactical Dispatcher reduces the cooldown rate of tactical airlift by 75%, but increases the cooldown of Griffin airstrike by 300%. Word of advice, don't choose this one. Infiltration Specialist is a little unique as it allows Nova to have Super Cloak, which basically in English means that she is completely undetectable. Also in this perk set, her abilities are reduced the cooldown by 50%, while the radius of them, like Nuke, is increased by 50%. The downside to all this is she can't switch to her combat suit, so no shotgun, and her super cloak breaks, so I guess she's more used for scouting than for combat. And that is it for the video, so thank you for all of you that have made it to the end of the video. It truly means the world to me. The fact that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of other content creators, and almost all of them are better than me, so the fact that you're taking your time to watch my videos, it truly means the world. So by the end of this video, I really hope not only do you understand how to play this hero, but how you can really have fun and do some experimentation with not only the mastery perks and the prestige system, but also that you know how to play in-game and have a bit of fun with it. I'm not here to judge. As usual, if you loved the video, if you are loving this StarCraft series, hell, if you're loving me, be sure to scroll down below and hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with all of the content coming your way. With all this being said, this is ToxicSpill. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one. And remember, do stuff you love. Signing off.